Yep.
Hey everyone, my name is Katie Brumfield and I'm the Colorado School Public Health Career Services Specialist. And today for Coffee and Careers, we are talking with Elisabeth Phillips. Elisabeth graduated from our school in 2019 with her Master's in Public Health in Epidemiology. Hi, Elisabeth.
Hi.
If you wouldn't mind just starting off to tell us your current job title and where you work.
Sure. I am currently the Colorado SURRG Epidemiology Coordinator. SURRG stands for Strengthening the U.S. Response to Resistant Gonorrhea. And I work at CDPHE, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
Great. Could you describe a typical day in your work?
And I will say that this is my experience alone, not any of the opinions of, not necessarily the opinions of Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So my typical day is pretty much just coordinating different parts of a project and different aspects. So there are three separate parts: a clinical, a laboratory, and an epidemiology portion to my project. And it's really communicating with the CDC, communicating with Denver Health, and with different clinics that we are partnered with, and doing data analysis and setting up meetings, etc.
Great. And do you work on a team of professionals?
I work in the data analytics team, but it is at CDPHE. My team includes myself. I have a temporary employee who does a lot of data analysis, and then we have some DIS that also provide interviews for patients.
Great. And what systems do you use like on a day-to-day?
I use RedCap, Tableau, SAS, and R. Those are the main ones.
What in terms of your position, a lot of people are interested in epidemiology. And how did you decide a career path in this?
Oh, well, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, as a lot of people that go into public health do think. But I then attended my senior year of undergrad. I was working in a microbiology lab. And so I really got to work on some really interesting viruses. And I thought, I got to work on Ebola during the Ebola outbreak. And I was like, oh, this is a very interesting path. And I thought I may pursue a PhD, but then I went to a public health conference and learned about polio and everything. And I just remember thinking, this is exactly what I want to do. And I want to be able to eradicate different diseases and really study them and in populations, really adding that human aspect, because I did not want to be a physician. And so I actually was like, oh, let's make sure that I really want to do this. So I started in a certificate program at Colorado School of Public Health. And I was like, yeah, this really is the place that I want to be. So I applied for the master's program.
So what would you say in like a quick overview, epidemiology, like define epidemiology?
All right, I would say studying the patterns of diseases in populations, the textbook definition. I think it can apply from anything to different social aspects to obviously data analysis. And there are so many factors that go into epidemiology that we don't see at face value until you're in the field and experiencing that. And it's a very, very cool subject. I'm a little biased, but it's definitely a great subject.
Good, great. Could you tell us how your job search went? So you graduated in 2019, and what was that like?
It was incredibly difficult. I think that you don't expect. So I was still working until working in a laboratory and trying to find a public health position. There were definitely, at first I did not know what I was doing. I totally think that you can probably attest to that. But I think that at first it's very disheartening, but you have to find that perfect position for you. Sometimes you have to understand that people are looking for something very specific, or sometimes they already have someone in mind for the position. But I think being persistent is very important, and really I know it's so hard to keep that morale up sometimes, but definitely continuing to be persistent and applying to different positions and different job types, because there's so many careers in public health rather than you can use epidemiology in many jobs. And so I think that that's important. Just the title of epidemiologist doesn't necessarily fit where epidemiology is categorized as.
I really admired your job search stamina, because it didn't happen quickly. And like you said, it can be frustrating, but you were really looking for the right position and you found it. And so,
right. And a global pandemic didn't really help. You would think that it would be a little quicker. They would want all hands on deck, but a pandemic definitely did not help at first.
it slowed things down for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say is the most rewarding thing thus far in your career?
Oh man. I would say really helping people, educating people about something that maybe is seen as so taboo as sexually transmitted infections, and really helping them understand that this isn't the end of the world. There should not be such a stigma on this. It's okay. Everything is really okay. And working with community members and just helping educate people about sexual health.
What about the challenges in your position?
Challenges. I think that it's, not well known that gonorrhea can be a superbug. And I think that that's super challenging sometimes when you have these people that, or you have people who don't necessarily, I guess the people that, don't finish their antibiotics. That's incredibly disheartening and scary, because it can increase resistance. And so I think that maybe, again, it comes down to the lack of education, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is a tough thing in public health, is really getting the message across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially with COVID and everything, I think that it's been, and I think the language that we use has had to change a lot to make sure all people aren't scared by what could become, but still take it seriously.
It sounds like a lot of communication skills in epidemiology, which you don't normally think of. You think of more of the data skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely do a lot of facilitating of meetings and communicating, writing reports, and everything. There is a ton of communication within my job, yes.
How would you say the Colorado School of Public Health really helped you in this job?
I think that my practicum and capstone were super helpful, because like I said before, I kind of had a lot of lab background and was doing experiments. I still got that statistical analysis aspect from those positions, but with my practicum and capstone, I really got actual public health data and had an actual project that I was working in the Department of Public Health, and that was super fulfilling to be able to prepare me for what the real world is like, because you can learn things in theory all the time, and it doesn't necessarily always prepare you fully for what is to come.
Yeah, that real world experience is really valuable.
Yeah, and presenting to peers, I think was you get so nervous because it may be one of your first presentations, and definitely you're not prepared for what questions, because you have no idea what questions people will ask about your project. But at the end of the day, you know your project better than anyone else. And so I think that was super helpful too, to just practice that presentation, because you have presentations all the time.
Yeah. What advice would you give for someone watching this video that might want to pursue a career path like yours?
I would say learn R and Tableau, even if it's the basic intro courses. Those are two platforms that I use very frequently. And I know there's tons of free resources or paid resources that you can use. And those are very beneficial, along with SAS, of course.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Elisabeth, for chatting with us today and telling us about your career path and all the amazing things that you're doing in public health.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right.